here with Matt Abel. This is Clyde Shabazz, and we're talking about the big day. This is the big day in Michigan where recreational marijuana has become legal in the state of Michigan.
We just call it adult use.
There you go. And this gentleman, this very dynamic gentleman that I'm sitting here with, he's a man of the seasons, Mr. Matt Abel.
Hey, Clyde.
Matt. Hey, Matt. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Good to see you.
I wanted to present an opportunity for you all who may not know who this gentleman is in the history of this this fight, if you will, of finally getting this this law passed. And this gentleman that's sitting right next to me is one of the main folks who helped to get this on the ballot to help it become law today. So, Matt, thank you again for all your hard work and that you've put in, and I think this is going to be a positive thing for this state for many, many years to come. But for the folks who don't know about who you are and how this movement started, we just wanted to get a few, in your own words, a few words of how did this all begin, timeline, and that sort of thing.
Well, boy, it depends how far back you want to go on the timeline. Harry Anslinger lied to Congress making marijuana illegal. And John Sinclair got busted in 1969 for selling 2 joints to an undercover cop. Got a sentence of 9.5 to 10 years. The Michigan Supreme Court eventually ruled, while he was in prison, that his penalty constituted cruel and unusual punishment. They threw out the entire Controlled Substances Act, and the legislature went about it and enacted the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 here in Michigan. What happened was for 3 weeks we had no drug laws at all in the state. The new laws took effect on April 1st, and that was the reason why the hash bash started. It was a protest against the new laws, not a celebration necessarily, but more of a protest. And, in fact, the first one wasn't called the Hash Bash. It was called the Hash Fest, I believe, something like that, and has turned into an annual event. But there was John Sinclair and his friends tried to legalize marijuana back in, I think, 1972. There's a petition in the other room hanging on the wall, which someone sent to me from a petition drive to petition to legalize marijuana here in Michigan back in the 70s. And then I didn't move to Michigan until 1975. I moved to Detroit around 1980. And so the first marijuana petition drive that I recall working on in Michigan was the PRA 2000, which was authored and headed by Greg Schmid, who's a lawyer in the Saginaw area. And so I worked on the PRA 2000, which didn't get enough signatures to make the ballot. In 2012, we had a group called Repeal Today.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Matthew Abel. He's the campaign director. Campaign director for Committee for a Safer Michigan. RepealToday.org. People go to RepealToday.org. We have a legalization effort in full swing right now for the first time in the history of Hash Bash. Please welcome Matthew Abel.
Thank you, Charmy. Happy Hash Bash 2012, everybody. And so out of frustration, eventually, I said to somebody, well, why don't you show up on Monday night and we'll talk about it? And that first night, 50 people showed up. Who was there that first night? And did we decide that first night that we needed a statewide ballot initiative? And then we spent the next weeks arguing about what that was going to be, and people said, well, let's do decriminalization, and we wrote it up, and then it took a half an hour to explain it. And everybody said, the heck with that, let's just legalize it. And Charmy said, let's just legalize it. And Donna said, let's just legalize it. And Richard said, let's just legalize it. And so, we drafted some language, and we have it here. And we got the support of the Michigan Hemp Education and Marketing Project and Everett Swift's organization, which I'm proud to serve on the board. And we got the support of Michigan NORML. And we got the support of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association. Thank you very much. And we got the support of the National Lawyers Guild, who have been with the cause for a long time. Yes. And so, we are still, the Green Party of Michigan has lent support to this ballot measure. And so we need your support. And what this is we need 323,000 ballot signatures by the 9th of July in order to put this on the ballot in Michigan. It's a constitutional amendment. It's a statewide ballot measure that says, and if we can, we'll pull the language out here and read it to you. And because I want everybody to be clear, this doesn't require any regulation. It doesn't require any testing, and there are no limits on quantities. So here we go. It's a proposal to amend the Michigan Constitution by adding a new Section 28 to Article 1 to read as follows. Repeal of marijuana prohibition! For persons at least 21 years of age who are not incarcerated, marijuana acquisition, cultivation, manufacture, sale, delivery, transportation, possession, ingestion, presence in or on the body, religious, medical, industrial, agricultural, commercial, or personal use, or possession or use of paraphernalia shall not be prohibited, abridged, or penalized in any manner, nor subject to civil forfeiture. Provided that no person shall be permitted to operate an aircraft, a motor vehicle, a motorboat, an ORV, a snowmobile, a train, or any other heavy or dangerous equipment or machinery while impaired by marijuana. So go to repealtoday.org, sign the petition to repeal prohibition.
That didn't get enough signatures to get on the ballot. A simple constitutional amendment repealing marijuana prohibition. And then in 2016, there was a group made up of, I'm now the executive director of Michigan NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Michigan NORML, along with several other groups, worked on Am I Legalized?
And we're going to put legalization on the ballot in Michigan in 2016. Now, I say that with confidence because I know you're listening. And we have work to do. And that work is to get a shitload more signatures because we need them. Because the state's playing games with us. They're saying that, you know, the 180-day rule is not enforceable, that we're not going to be able to go back and use these stale, what they call stale and void signatures. So we don't want to have to fight with them about what's stale and void. Let's get some more signatures and get this job done.
Am I Legalized ended up being, in 2016, not getting enough signatures according to the courts, although we sued and took it to federal court and eventually ended up losing. But we regrouped in 2018 with the help of the Marijuana Policy Project and the ACLU and several other organizations. There was a drafting committee of about 20 people, 15 of whom were fairly active, and we wrote what is now MRTMA, the Marijuana Regulation, or the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. Wow. And so here we are today. The law takes effect, and it's a glorious day. We're about to have a rockin' party here at Cannabis Council. Our law firm has 5 attorneys, and all we do is work on marijuana law, and the firm is here for the purpose of being an activist firm. I'm the senior partner, and we started this place in order to be able to concentrate on changing the law, and there is more work to be done. We are not finished. We still have only 108 out of 1,700 municipalities in Michigan which have ordinances that allow medical marijuana facilities. We're a long way from getting retail stores, but eventually we need that. Once we have retail stores in Michigan, we will see that opiate overdose and death rates will be reduced. And that the more cannabis there is in a community, but there has to be availability, safe access for adults. Once we have that, I think we're going to see all kinds of really good benefits.
The whole issue of criminal justice reform, particularly for African American young men that have gotten charges put on them from low level of marijuana possession, and getting some of those cases expunged.
Right. There are bills pending in the legislature to do that. Now, some people are already eligible for expungement and just need to file the paperwork and go to court. If someone has no more than one felony and 2 misdemeanors, one of those can be expunged. You never can expunge a traffic offense like drunk driving or something like that, or a murder case, but most everything else is eligible for expungement. And so I would encourage people who are eligible to apply. I know Governor Whitmer said that she would support some type of correction of the criminal records of a lot of people to make them eligible, and that's important. It needs to happen. There's no reason why it shouldn't. It should actually be automatic. We shouldn't have to have people be required to go back to court to do this. The government could, the legislature actually could on their own. The governor has the pardon power, but the legislature has the power to create new laws. And
so some of the other benefits, Matt, is the potential for the state's economy, like maybe in the agricultural sector.
Well, there's a whole hemp part of this where anything under 0.3% THC doesn't qualify as marijuana and can be treated as industrial hemp. And we think there's a good hope that that'll do great things for the agricultural sector. Hemp can be used for food, for fuel, for fiber, and there's no reason why it shouldn't. It's non-polluting and it's a renewable resource. One of the reasons why marijuana was made illegal in the first place is because they had figured out how to make hemp replace cotton effectively, and the cotton producers didn't want that. They figured out how to hemp was replaced by nylon when we no longer had hemp rope. And so there's a whole industrial portion of this behind hemp. But in addition, we've got all the high CBD qualities of topical ointments and all other type of preparations. People are talking about taking pills. I did a radio interview this morning with somebody who said he bought some THC CBD rub that he uses on his knee that he brought back from Colorado. And so it seems to be fairly commonplace now, which it's a good thing. We just need the government to get up with the people here. This will create a lot of jobs, and there's so many ripple effects from it. So the dispensaries bring people to town. They create a shopping district, if you will. The growers create all kinds of construction jobs, and then jobs in the factories themselves. Same thing with the processors. There are transporters, there are laboratories which are working and doing testing. And then we have all the secondary fields, the marketing and packaging and networking people and public relations and accountants and lawyers and bankers and on and on. Once we take it off Schedule 1 federally, that should solve the banking problem and the tax problem, and the floodgates will open, and this will be the next .com boom. And we're already seeing that with mergers and consolidations. Every day we get calls here at the firm from people wanting to buy dispensaries. For some reason, everybody wants one in Ann Arbor, but I'd rather be in Detroit. So.
Well, Matt, thank you again so much for your time. Again, congratulations, sir.
Thanks for the interview, Clyde.
No, thank
awesome.
you. We really appreciate the hard work that you put in, and we want to thank you. This will be posted online at some point, so you guys can become familiar with this great man here and the work he's put in for years. This did not just happen. A lot of hard work went in there. Thank you, Matt.
All right, Clyde.
Appreciate you, sir.